So hello everybody, my name is Jessie Chorley and I'm a London-based embroidery artist. Lots of you might know me from my shop days on Columbia Road in East London. Today I am here in Alexandra Palace in North London with all my new work. This is one piece which I stitched roughly over 3 years, sort of over lockdown. And this piece is part of the exhibition today, which is called Stories, Drawings, Marks and Experiments, which all this work and a lot of new work will go on to a solo exhibition at the Rithin Craft Centre in April 2025. So everything is hand stitched by me, and storytelling and drawing with needle and thread and fabric, found and pre-loved fabric and threads, very, very important to me. And there's lots of little symbols in here that I put in my work. There's lots of objects which I had around me when I was stitching this, sort of, I guess, locked in my flat like lots of us over lockdown. This is my mum's teapot, which is a beautiful teapot which I bought her years ago, and I've illustrated it a lot. There's some little objects which my granddad's here. This is my favourite pincushion. So yeah, lots of details from home and quite personal things. I, like lots of us, I was suddenly spending a lot of time on my own over lockdown. And tables became, hugely significant in my work. So a lot of the new work here and the work that's revolving at the moment has tables in it. It's almost the idea of creating this little sort of precious space. And maybe they can be they're like a still life or a theatre. It's like you can kind of put quite personal objects within them. I don't always back a lot of my work, but this piece is backed with a big French sheet, which I dyed, and I've put that on the back. And if we go over here, and this is a smaller panel which is very recently finished. It's on the same beautiful grey linen. I grew up in Wales, surrounded by many textile artists, so I was very lucky to grow up in the studios of people like Roseanne Hawksley and Audrey Walker and Arian Short, and this piece of fabric was actually given to me by one of those incredible women. So lots of this new work has lots of very precious little snippets in it, which has come from, let's just say, some amazing studios. Quite a lot has also come from Cosprop, the costumiers, which my mum had connections there when I was a child. So I was always given these amazing bags of bits of silk and all sorts of stuff. So there's quite a lot in this work. Some of the pieces which I haven't wanted to cut up for years, so I'm finally using them. And manipulating little details. With the applique, that is very much what I do. So that's my applique drawing with the snippets of fabric that's what I teach as well. This piece has quite a lot of reverse applique. So this piece here is reverse applique, and I'm playing lots of sort of textures at the moment. This piece here is the base is a beautiful old piece of quilt, which came from a studio I worked in years ago, and I've saved this for a long, long time, and I do a lot of screen printing and etching and drawing with ink. So with this piece I really wanted to use lots of black threads on it, and I think because of the background, the black threads used in lots of the other work, but this one I think it really shows up those threads. And since I've been working towards this exhibition, I've been really practicing and analysing my stitches. I really don't use a lot of technical stitches. I like using a lot of very simple straight stitches. So I love the idea that the simplest of stitch is basically a straight stitch. And I'm using it in my work. I use those straight stitches in lots of different ways. So here, this is just tiny, tiny little running stitches, or you could say little straight seed stitches. These here are what I call a scattered seed stitch. and that is built in like more of a pearl thread, so it's a little bit thicker. These are just little straight stitches here using vintage threads. This section here is supposed to be the Blackwall Tunnel. So where I live close to Stratford in a converted warehouse. My first little flat I bought, and I love it. I work there and I stitch there a lot. And I've recently been really pushing the way I illustrate buildings in London. So a lot of this is sort of looking through from my commute when I leave my studio in South London. I cycle back through I don't cycle through the tunnel, but I take a bus, and I'm always going through this quite grotty bits of London, but I'm looking through Canary Wharf, these big buildings. And so I've been trying to break those down. So I actually really love this work, and I made it quite quickly, sort of around Easter time. But I feel like it's still quite an experimental piece. This has got lots of couching in it. For me, couching seems to be a really perfect way to sort of describe like all the different shapes in the buildings in London, especially around the where my studio is, around the Thames Barrier. You've got these huge industrial buildings. Lots of satin stitch here, and lots of couching, and the use of little found objects. A lot of these little things have actually come off on the road during my cycle, so I'll pick little bits up. At the moment I'm really into creating my own variegated thread, so I'm mixing normally threads of the same weight, popping two sort of contrasting colours through my needle, and I'm stitching with them a lot, mainly in satin stitch, and you get a beautiful variegated. And then this is very, very new, all this couching here, which is quite timely and quite tricky to do. This is a very old silk thread, which is laid down, and then I'm holding it in place with little stabbing straight seed stitches. As many of you might know, I've just written my first book with a publisher, David and Charles. And for me, writing is quite difficult. I'm very dyslexic. It was an amazing opportunity to do the book, but at the same time as doing the book, I needed, a bit like when I teach, I needed to have something in my hands. So I started this piece roughly at the same time as I started writing my book. My book is very much based on my work, sort of the work I do as a social artist and a tutor, and with my new book we are making sort of fabric memory journal, seasonal memory journal, so it's a very technical book, and this piece here is made from a big linen tablecloth which was given to me by a good friend of mine when I went for lunch in her studio one day, and I started to make this a time of year I always love. It's just coming up to Christmas, and I'm about to slow down for a month, and I just cut the fabric and folded it, and this is the kind of shape I ended up with. It has a little piece of wool inside, and I'm very much a top stitcher, so we have a double-sided panel here, and there is a little bit of detail on the back, but the idea is almost like a scroll, so it can roll up. And I just started very freely to stitch on it. These trees here, over Christmas I went to stay in a forest in North Wales with my partner. We had this terrifying storm the night we arrived. So these trees really here are really based around this particular night in this super dark, windy forest up a mountain in North Wales. And with these, because I was writing a very technical stitch book at the same time, my brain was very busy analysing all the stitches. So I was sort of looking at, each day I was going for a walk in the woods, and I was looking at all the rain running down the trees, or the animals that were like living in the trees, all the little like spiders and things, and I was drawing lots in sketchbooks, so I was trying to work out how to get all these different shades, and especially of the wood in winter, there's not so much greenery there. So and this was a beautiful old piece of silk which was actually off an old shirt of mine, and to start a piece like this I kind of pop chunks of my applique down, and I worked on this roughly over a year, just under a year. It came with me to Belgium, where I was teaching fabric bookmaking, and I went to lots of flea markets and bought lots of these threads here, which are a very particular French silk, and incredible colours, which I don't think you can really get in modern threads. So a lot of this was built up using all these very, very bright silks. There is a big piece of reverse applique in the middle, and this is padded, so I normally pad with sheep's wool is my favourite thing to use because it doesn't come out. This here is a piece of velvet I've had since I was a kid in my fabric bag. On here, this is the back of like a little clock, a little bit of metal in there. It's like the waistband off a skirt here, which I think when I just placed that on, it was kind of the perfect, I guess it's very abstract, but you can say it's a cloud or part of the tree. One of my favourite pieces is this piece of lace here, which I got in a flea market a few years ago in Paris, when I was teaching out there, and it's obviously been washed many times. It's got these beautiful little bits of dye embedded in it, and that just seemed perfect to finish the sky, and that's very densely stitched with scattered straight seed stitches using, it's like a DMC pearl thread. Always getting given beautiful things, so these were given to me by a good friend of mine in France, so they became part of the flower. Again, some little buildings here. Lamps and little scenes from home are quite important, so that was in there. Horses, you'll see a lot in my work. I spent a lot of my teenage years and my 20s doing a lot of competitive horse riding. And animals. I don't have animals at the moment in my life, but at home we've always had dogs and horses and all sorts of things. My mum is also an embroidery artist, and she was stitching a horse at a similar time, so it's great. And chairs often sort of evoke the feeling of a person or a sense of people. I love this piece, but I feel like it's almost still evolving. I would like there to be a bit more to it, or I think another long piece of work will develop from this piece. So this show is predominantly my very personal artwork, so these large-scale pieces which I've worked on over the last couple of years. And this wall here you might recognise if you collect my limited edition kits and templates and stitching projects. There's sort of four main designs here. This is my new alphabet, which again during lockdown, during all those days, I hand drew the alphabet, and this is a big screen print I've just done. So this is available as a stitching project. Myself, I'm building it up with lots of straight stitches again and couching, and there's lots of little, it's probably hard to see on the film, but you can, these are little bits of off like collars, dresses, this is a little bit of string, so I'm trying to couch. My idea with this one is, let's think of it as a stitch sample. Each year I do Jessie Chorley People's Choice Award, and this was the project for this year, and this is a souvenir which is very much based on sort of some of the very first sort of Victorian Christmas cards and postcards, and I collect a lot of postcards. I still have postcards that my granddad and grandma stitched onto silk, so it's kind of loosely based around that, and that comes as a print, and then I've embellished it and I've turned that into sort of a little souvenir piece, which is like a little cushion. This is one of my very first designs. It's a big sort of more free drawing, and I finished it in 2019, and it's probably one of my most popular projects today, even though it's quite a complicated piece and it involves a real dedicated stitcher to take this one on. So yeah, a lot of satin stitch, a lot of seeding on here, built up with quite a lot of thick thread, so lots of sort of satin stitch, very, very densely stitched. And I can just give you a little glimpse of the back. It's nice to think we don't always have to cover the back of our work. The back is often much more abstract than the front, and it can be very, very beautiful. So if you'd like to see more of my work, my projects, my kits, workshop dates, or if you'd like to visit me in person in my studio, you can visit my website, which is www.jessiechorley.com, or join me on Instagram, where I post lots of scenes from my studio and projects and inspiration. Thank you.